Hello and welcome to Chapter 5, Section 7. This section is called Slope-Intercept. Slope-intercept is a way to write an equation so that you can look at the slope and a point automatically and you can draw the line that easy. But you have to understand all of the parts. And they're not that tough. They're really not. We write the equation in y equals mx plus b form, and this is a formula. And the farther you get in math, the more you're going to have to understand formulas. And science, by the way, but. Okay, y equals mx plus b. Notice you have your x and your y, which can be any point on the line. So we're going to leave those x and y. M is the number we're going to give to our slope. So let's say our slope was 3/5. Then the 3/5 would go right here. Then we have B, and B is our y-intercept. Now why they use the letters M and B, I have no idea, but whatever. Keep them M and B, trust me. B is the y-intercept, and the y-intercept, what that means is where this line intersects with the y-axis. So if this is your line, this point right here is your y-intercept. If this is your line, then that point right there is your y-intercept. Your y-intercept could be down here. Your y-intercept could be way the heck down here if you've got a line way over there. Doesn't matter. Wherever it crosses the y-axis, that's where your y-intercept is. So it doesn't have to be a point. It doesn't have to be 0, comma, something in parentheses. It'll just tell you the y spot. So it can do it with one number, and you can manipulate your equation so that you can find this. Let's say I've got the equation y equals 2/3 x plus 4. This is my slope. This is my y-intercept. I can start here. I'm going to go to the point 0, comma, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It crosses the y-axis at 4. And then I'm going to use my slope. Up 2/3. Poof. I can draw my line. Just like that. Let's try it again. Y equals -3x minus 2. So here, it crosses the y-axis at -2, at the spot 0, comma, -2. Now I'm going to go down 3 and over 1. 1, 2, 3, and over 1. Here is that line. And it's that easy to graph. And all you need is an equation. Okay? Give it a try. Draw yourself a set of axes, a coordinate plane, and do these two equations. Y equals -1/2 x plus 2, and then y equals 5x. Don't let this scare you, because this is really plus 0. So give that a try and see how you do, and then come back. So we're going to start at 2, and we're going to go down 1 and over 2. So your first line should look like that, and your second line should start at 0, because this is really plus 0, because we don't have to write that. Starts at 0, and it goes up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. And this line, if I could draw a straight line, works like that. You should have that line and that line written on your graph. How'd you do? I hope you find this easy. I hope that this works out okay for you. And if you didn't remember, put a cloud around the your turn, the graph. I want to see your two lines graphed. Okay. So, the next question, what if your equation is different? What if it doesn't end up being y equals mx plus b? What if it doesn't look like y equals 1/3 x plus 2? What if it looks different? What if your equation looks like 3x plus 2y equals 6? I can't just magically graph this. I want to be able to get this to look like y equals something x plus or minus something. We're going to have to change around the equation to get y all by itself. Now, do you remember when we had the equation 2x minus 4 equals 12 and we had to solve for x? The first thing we did was we dealt with the stuff that was farthest away from the x. The first thing we did was we added 4 to both sides. And that got the 2x by itself. And 12 plus 4 is 16. And then we divided each side by 2, so it was just x on this side. We're going to do that same thing to this. Now the only difference is we've got a y running around. So we've got an x and a y we've got to deal with. And it's not hard. It's just complicated, okay? I want the y to stay here because I want it to say y equals something. So I'm going to get rid of the x. I'm going to move the x to both sides, to the other side. So I'm going to get rid of it. I have a 3x added to my 2y, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So now this goes away. And I have 2y equals, and I can't add or subtract these two together. It's like apples and oranges. I can't say 6 minus 3x is 3x. I can't do that. So this should be 6 minus 3x, and I just leave it like that. But I want my x on this side, so I'm going to say negative 3x plus 6. Do you see how 6 minus 3x and negative 3x plus 6 are the same thing? That this, you know, is positive, so it's going to magically have a little positive sign in front of it. I can switch them around. But if I say 2 minus 5, I can't say 5 minus 2. That's not the same thing. I have to take the negative sign with it. I took the negative sign with it to the front. So I've got 2y equals negative 3x plus 6. Now, I can't have this 2 here. I have to divide everything by 2. Now, complicated. I have to divide everything by 2. So, I'm going to start by actually drawing it. Divide everything by 2. And now fix it. Now I have y equals. And I have negative 3 over 2x. This and this are the same thing. It doesn't matter if I multiply my x here or if I multiply my x later. And what's 6 over 2? That's, rewind it just to see it again, and you will feel confident in it. Because I am about to ask you to do it again. This is your turn. Here I've got negative 5x plus 3y equals negative 12. You're going to start by adding 5x to both sides, and then you're going to divide everything by 3. Push pause, give it a shot, come back. I'm going to add 5x to both sides. So now I've got my 3y equals. And I want my 5x to come first, and then my minus 12, because I can't combine them because they're different. Now I'm going to divide everything by 3. And that goes away, and I have y equals 5/3 x minus 4. Now, we're going to go backwards. We're going to take the line, and we're going to find the equation. Now, the two things we need to find this equation are where it crosses the y-axis and what the slope is, because the other two parts are x and y, and we know those. They're x and y. So, we're going to start with this line. Here, it crosses the y at negative 4, and our slope is rise over run. So, our next point here is going to be here, 3, 0. So I've got my 2 points. I'm going to start by writing out my equation. Y equals, I don't know m yet, x, and my plus b is actually negative 4. That's where it crosses the y-axis. Now I'm going to do my rise over run to figure out my slope, and that is up 4 and over 3. Up 4 and over 3. Okay? Done. I now have my equation. Your turn. This is your turn. I've got a line here. It crosses the y-intercept at 0, 5. Its second point is right here at 5, 2. So write your skeleton, figure out your y-intercept, figure out your slope. Push pause, then come back. So my y-intercept is 5, positive 5. And I'm going to go down 3, and over 5. So So this has a negative slope, negative 3/5 x plus 5. How'd you do? Now, the word problems on this particular assignment ask you to understand what it is that you're talking about. So let me walk you through one. Lee's house is 350 meters from her friend's house. She walks at 50 meters per minute. That's her rate. The equation y equals negative 50x plus 350 is the distance, and distance is y, Lee has to walk in x number of minutes. You're going to graph it, then you're going to explain what the x and the y intercepts mean. Now, distance can't be negative and time can't be negative. So you're not dealing with this kind of graph, you're dealing with this kind of graph, because all of them can only be positive. And remember, time is always on the bottom, distance is always on the side. So she started out at her friend's house and she's coming home, and it's the distance from her house. So she's going to start far away and go towards her house. Lee's house is 350 meters away. So we're going to start at 350 meters away, and she walks 50 meters per minute. So how do you graph this? You're going to start with a function table because you know your rule, negative 50x plus 350. So how far has she walked in 1 minute? When x equals 1, what is y? When x equals 2, what is y? When x equals 3, what is y? And now you can graph your line. And your line ends up doing this. After 1 minute, she's walked 50 meters, so she's got 300 left. After 2 minutes, she's walked 100 meters, so she's got 250 meters left. So you're ending up graphing this. And it gets you all the way down in here. And then they'll ask you to explain what the x and y intercepts mean. And that's the concept part. So I just need you to understand it. The y-intercept here, when this line crosses your y-intercept, that is the total distance she had to walk. When this line crosses the x-axis, this is the total time it took to walk that distance. And then your slope, which is rise over run, is distance over time. So your slope is actually your speed, your rate, in meters per minute. I'm about to ask you to do one. So if you didn't understand this, go back through and watch this section of the video again, okay? So here's your practice. First, you're going to find the x and y intercepts. The x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis, and the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. I have a number of points to talk to you about. This is line number 1. This is line number 2. Line number 1 has the points 0, 4 and negative 5, 0. Line number 2 has the points 0, 6 and 3, 0. So you're going to find the x and y intercepts, and then you're going to write the equation. You're going to start at one point. You're going to find the rise and the run to get to the other point. That gives you the slope. And then you can write y equals mx plus b. Numbers 3 and 4 give you, this one gives you an equation in slope-intercept form. This one gives you an equation in standard form that you have to put into slope-intercept form. So you're going to have to subtract, or actually you're going to have to add 2x to both sides, that whole 9 yards. Then you're going to graph them. Number 5. Fred slides down, so you're descending, a 200-foot water slide at a speed of 10 feet per second. Y equals negative 10x plus 200 is how far Fred still has to slide. You're going to graph this, build your own graph, and explain what the x and the y intercepts mean. Okay? That's the concept part. That's a big deal. So, take your time with it, get good at it so that when you walk in tomorrow, you know exactly how to do your homework. Okay? Ask me questions if you need to. Put hazard signs where you can, but please don't just throw up your hands and walk away. Try it. Go back through the video if you have to, but make sure that you can ask me a very specific question. Good luck, and I'll see you tomorrow.